Now that we're going to cut our box sides, we have to remember to try to keep everything in line. So there's a cut there and there's a cut there. Now I don't actually mark the pieces when I'm cutting them. In batch jobs you don't need to cut. What I do have is on this fence here, I've got a series of marks that I work with. This is a mark that I use for the short side of the box, and 175, that one there is where the long side is. This one here is 65 centimeters. I think it's 65 centimeters. It's been that long since I've needed to measure. So, actually, you know, it's 56 millimeters, not 65, 56 millimeters, and this one's 175. So, to get the cut, so this is the short length of the box side, and this is the long length. I normally cut the long length first. So remember, we want to keep the when we're cutting the box, this is going to be the long length. We want to keep the rebate facing towards us every single time. So what I do is I first cut the first miter, and then I cut the long miter. So all I do is I bring it to that line there, and I cut the long miter. You see how the jigs, the timber's rocking up because there's a bit of a ramp there. I've cut this a little bit longer than what it should be. It should be 270 mils long, but I think this actual blanket is 300 mil long. So I'll just cut it a bit longer than what it has to be. And then I'll come back and do the proper cut. See, it's just poking that there. And that's all it is. So that's one box side. Now this is the short side of the box. So what, again, we want the rebate facing towards us, and we just want to dock that off so that we've got an miter. And on this side we just go into that line, and that's the box side. Now when you're holding on to it, be careful your fingers. I've done this so many times, but all care, no responsibility. So just be very careful with that. Again, we want to cut the long side first, rebate towards us. You see, I've got quite a bit of an offcut at the end, so that's why I need to make that second cut. So that's where it needs to be, and I'll give it a few more mils. Now we're cutting it to the right length. Again, we're just going towards that mark. The long length, and now we're cutting the short. As you can see, cutting the box sides is excellent. And that's it. Okay, now we've cut our boxes. This is where the numbering comes so important. How these lined up was the C and the D was like that, and the A and the B was like that. So that's how that's how they used to sit. Now what we want to do to match the grains is we want to put the C and the D together, and these lines match up, and then the A and the B together, and that's how the grain matches up. Now as you can probably see, can you see the wave of the grain coming towards the box that way? And that way when you glue it, it just looks like one single piece. And on this side, the same thing. You see the waves just go through, and it just looks continuous. Now, if you've done a really good job, not only will these two match, but these two corners should match too. You see how the you see that squiggly black line? It carries on and then goes back up on the other side. And on this side, the lines join together as well. So that's how you get a really nice book matched box. So all four sides look like it's come up from one single piece of timber. Now once you've finished cutting the box, you then need to prepare the base. Okay, for the box bases, I do quite a bit at a time. So because I've got a generic measurement that I use for the box sides, I make the box side, the box bases exactly the same way. All of them are identical. Rather than individually cut them, what I do is I prepare the board first. I send it through the thicknesser planer and I cut them to 10 mils, but we want to finish at a 1/4 mil. So it goes through the thicknesser, goes through the joiner, through the joiner first and then through the thicknesser, 2 mils oversized, and then I sand it on the drum sander so that it's 1/4 inch and it fits perfectly into the slot. I sand it to 240 grit on both sides, and then from there we can then trim them up. Now I'm not, in this video I'm not actually going to switch on the machine. Rather than individually measure each dimension, because they're always exactly the same, what I do is I've just created a little sled here, or a little jig. On the bottom side there's a track that goes into the, there's a piece of timber that goes into the track, and that stays still. Now for the length, I don't measure. I just put it on the jig here, I go through and I cut that, and then I turn it around the other side, and there's a stop here, so I just put it on that and then I cut the length that way. So these two are identical, and they're all exactly the same, so I spend very little time. In terms of actually cutting them, all I'm doing is putting it on, cut, turn it around, cut, and that's it. That's all I have to do for the length. And if it's a long strip, well then it's just cut, take it off, slide it on, cut, take it off, slide it on, cut, take it on, slide it off. So it's quite repetitive and very quick. Now for the width of the base, I've just made another little jig. Again, this just slides on. This then goes onto the stop, and it's just backwards and forwards, and then we've cut the base. Now, if you don't want to make a pen box and you don't need the slots for the pen rest, you don't have to do this step. But for the actual slot, what I do is, again, I've got another jig. This thing just slides on. I just adjust the height of the blade so that it's about 1/4 inch. 3 mils. The board is 1/4 inch, so I just adjust that blade so that it's 3 mils above the surface. And what I do to cut this slot, you just turn it in, run it through, turn it around, run it through, and that's it. You've cut the slots. Now because it's zero tolerance, you don't get any chip out, and yeah, it's just fabulous working with jigs. Just how quickly, like if I've got 50, 100 to do, got the earphones on, one cut, turn it around, next cut, next, and then again another one, turn it around, bang, next. So to cut 100 slots would literally take you less than 5 minutes. It's extremely quick, and if you're getting into box making, always make jigs. They save your fingers and they save you a lot of time. So these are the 3 jigs that I use to cut the box bases.